A land of quizzes, the bunk never stops. With cards in the deck, we reach for the top. Each question's a challenge, what do you believe? Unearthing what others think, can you do the deed? Chomp, 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 answer and guess. Share what you believe and what others express. Chomp, slide, bunk, time's running fast. In the game of chomp, revealing is the task. Chomp, revealing is the tide. In a land of quizzes, the bunk never stops. With cards in the deck, we reach for the top. Each question's a challenge, what do you believe? Unearthing what others think, can you do the deed? Chomp, 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 answer and guess. Share what you believe and what others express. Chomp, slide, bunk, time's running fast. In the game of chomp, revealing is the task. Chomp, revealing is the tide.
Okay, I think we are live now. Can you hear me,
I can
Isaac?
hear you.
Okay, but you couldn't hear the song before?
No, I didn't hear the song.
Oh, the song is well, shout out if Crypto Kelly, if you're watching, the song is made by Crypto Kelly for it's like almost a year ago when we first launched the product. He made like an AI song. It's like Chomp Chomp Monster. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, we just did a live stream with another protocol earlier today as a test, and we actually have requests from the community to save the song because I played it as a part of the intro as well. Okay,
Nice. Let's go.
so yeah, let's go. Today is our first time trying out Chomp and Vibe. We wanted to see if live stream is a format that you guys will respond to and talk to us through. So the chat is open. Oh, I see Grim over here. Good to see you, Grim GM. So Grim has been a part of our community for the last year since the beginning, and I'm sure we have other people that are flowing in. And I'm KZ. I'm the co-founder of Chomp, and here we have Isaac, who is the other co-founder, and we're just having a conversation. Actually, probably a shortened version of the conversation we've had in the last many months, except this time we'll have some listeners who are listening in and can ask questions. So, how are you? How are you, Isaac?
I'm good. Yeah, things are good. I'm staying on a beach right now because I'm
Yeah,
currently nomadic and don't have a home, so I'm homeless. So I'm currently homeless in Hawaii, which is pretty fucking sick. Um, yeah, just doing work, hanging out on a beach. It's great.
your first time in Hawaii?
Yeah, first time in Hawaii.
Yeah, I haven't been either. I've heard a lot of great things about it, and yeah, I hope to go one day. I mean, the only thing I know about Hawaii is White Lotus, the Four Seasons hotel in White Lotus where people get murdered. Have you watched that?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Kind of
Um, so you will be in Hawaii for a few weeks, and then where are you heading after?
Singapore.
Okay. Uh, what will you be doing there?
We're going to the super team ignition thing for like the last couple weeks. So that'll be cool. Hang out with some other founders and chat and see how we can help each other.
Yeah. So as a lot of the community members saw, we have just made an announcement last week about our decision to go on a summer break, if you will. So like pausing development on the current product and looking within and also like exploring in the world about what is the next thing to build for Chomp. But before kind of going into that, I kind of wanted to make sure that everyone that's listening and also us have shared context kind of going into that conversation. So, Isaac, could you tell us a little bit about um, how we met, what made us decide to build this, and like maybe like some of the uh, parts of the journey that you feel like were um, kind of pivotal in making us decide to build Chomp in this way today?
Sure. We met in Berlin in August of 2023, and just started talking and vibing, and yeah, hit it off and had a lot of the same, kinds of thoughts about the world and um, things that we could potentially do to kind of push it in what we largely think is the right direction. And a lot of that what had to do with information and the quality of information that we see and engage with every day. Um, and so we started to think about it and designed a few things that were, different types of markets, consensus protocols, whatever you want to call it. Um, and eventually that turned into Chomp. And Chomp's goal is basically to close the gap between perceptions and reality um, by providing context and metadata for an individual piece of information or content. So all the answers on Chomp have a lot more context to them than like a tweet, because there's more input, there's more information there. Like information theoretically, this is what's called like a bit. There's a lot more bits in these answers than something you might see on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or wherever, or even potentially like CNN or whatever your local news station, preferred news station is. Probably massively more bits than Fox News, but that's a whole other thing. Um, yeah, and so that's kind of, what we set out to do with Chomp, and kind of like the large vision that we're trying to serve is, bridging that gap between perceptions and reality, and hopefully that allows people to better connect with and build relationships with one and can overcome a lot of the sort of narrative engineering that creates a lot of bias. Wherever that comes from, whatever that is, it's all over from everywhere. And the only way to kind of like resist that is to basically create a way to access collective intelligence, um, and that will bridge the gap.
Yeah. Um, Cronus is joined the live stream. I don't know if you can see from the phone over there, Isaac. But G Chomp Cronus, good to see you. So okay, so we've had a lot of different ways, like or different like one word or simplified ways we've used to attempt to describe what Chomp is. We've tried information distillery, we've tried vibe market, we've tried subjective oracle, we've tried all these different names. What do you think is like the term that you are resonating with the most right now?
I think vibe markets for sure right now. So I think yeah. So vibe markets are basically something that is a market for identifying vibes. Like it's pretty kind of self-explanatory, or like sounds self-explanatory. It's a little bit more complex than that, obviously. Um, but we all vibe differently with different things. Whether that's because of culture, our own thoughts, our own ideas, where we are in life, how old we are, whatever, right? And it's really hard to understand kind of like how people actually think about something. Um, and that's kind of like, how they buy. And I think like that is something that also plays into, a lot of like the other narratives going on with, like vibe coding and vibe fucking anything really, just vibe doing shit. Um and it's casual, it's fun, it's quick, um and it makes stuff. Um and yeah, I think vibe markets for sure.
So vibe markets also kind of sets the tone for like maybe like a more fun and casual nature of what Trump sets out to build on an app level, maybe? Or you think not so much?
um uh I not really sure, I guess.
Mm,
I think vibe markets is just more of a like amorphous kind of like concept that can appear in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
okay. So if we had to put vibe markets on, maybe if we had to put what vibe markets underneath something as a product that you will use every day, have you thought about what kind of product it would be?
I mean, I would use it for a lot of things. I may not necessarily participate in all of the markets like myself. But I think that so I was talking to somebody here in Honolulu like this morning, who works for Parlay. He's like an ocean conservationist, he's like a big surfer and is part of a bunch of different like surf groups and clubs and stuff.
Mhm,
And I was telling him about kind of what we're doing, and he was like, "Oh, we could like use something like that." I was like, "Yeah, like we can use it to see like what the locals think is going to have like the best waves that like
mhm,
today." All of these things like you can kind of like measure and are objective, but people have different preferences. What's going to be like super crowded. Um, maybe you can surface like information from the people who work at hotels, and they're like, oh, the hotels are all dead, and so like there's not gonna be no tourists like on this like really popular beach, and so like today's the day to go to that beach.
mhm.
And a vibe market could help with that. I think like that's something that like at least I'm currently thinking about right now that I would use. um because like I'm definitely trying to learn to surf while I'm here. I'm definitely gonna try and go surfing, hopefully at least
Yeah.
once. So I think that's something that like I was thinking about earlier today that would, I think, tangibly benefit my weekend. Um, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think like one of the things I told you about when we were like not talking to more people than today, um, was kind of on the days when I feel down, I will want to know how the world feels that day. Or like I want to be like, I feel shit, and I'm guessing, I don't know, 20% of the crowd feels shit today. But then, the answer might surprise me. And I think if everyone's having a good day, I think it might make me feel like there's more to look forward to. But if in general everyone's having a bad day, then it might make me feel less alone. I don't know. Like I think having the ability to tap into like a larger collective, having the ability to know what others really think about the things that are important to ourselves can be a very powerful tool for many different things. Um, but then, so what happened, I think, was we started talking about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and then we identified this like very large problem of people living in information silos and AI and technology kind of exacerbating kind of like the video we watched recently, like narrative engineering, kind of pushing people towards like specific narratives, and it's very hard for us to be on the same plane, be on the same understanding, and then we wanted to build something that helps with that. And how do we go from that to Chomp the quiz game? Do you remember?
What do you mean?
Kind of like I'm just like providing context to people who like don't know the history of like how we went from like identifying this really large problem to using Chomp the quiz game as like the first main form factor.
Okay.
That was
Uh,
that was my question to
what
you.
what where was the question?
The
What
question
was the
is
question?
how the question is how do we choose the quiz game as the first form factor to build?
Uh, because it was quick. Basically, it was something that we could have people spend like 5 minutes a day like doing. Um, was the primary reason.
Also, I think we wanted a way to I don't know if that's the main reason, but um we wanted a low lift way for people to interact with incentives, I guess, like to have a buy-in and to have that participation loop.
Um, I mean, that like talk about like abstracting the market piece
Yeah.
away from that. That's not, I don't think the biggest reason. Like I think like people won't engage with markets; they'll engage with a game. But like it still has to be something that you do like very quickly or can do like very quickly. It can fit into your day, like your routine, like whatever. But yeah, abstracting the market piece is definitely important because most people have never engaged with a market and would be very confused. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And some of the things that I think, like, I definitely wouldn't engage with like a poly market, for example. I actually didn't know that much about poly market until after starting to build Chomp. And I remember asking our audience if they've heard of like some of these markets. And I think the questions that we asked is like, do you know these markets? And then do you think Chomp is a market? And I think the answer that we got was no, they don't see Chomp as a market. And that's in a way like validating kind of our hypothesis that this like low lift gamified version was going to work. Um, and then we pushed it out. I'm, I kind of want us to um, maybe provide some learnings and maybe some rationale to the things that went well and the things that maybe we learned and could have gone better in the last year that led us to the decision of the summer break. So I can share first. So in the last year, I think some of the things were really encouraging. I think like what I really loved about building Chomp is the being able to see all these people from places that I have never been to myself, or maybe I have not even heard of, engaging with Chomp, engaging with Chompy, and kind of tying their identity. Like as someone was messaging me and talking to me about yesterday, kind of choosing to use Chomp or being a Chomper, being a champion as a part of their online or their Web3 identity. Um, the fact that we're able to build a community like this and put out content that people want to engage with and allow others to put out their own content, I think that has been a really rewarding experience for me. And then also just creating Chompy the character, building out the brand, and seeing all the support from both retail users and also businesses. Those were all really encouraging signs. But what was quite obvious to me was um, the community that we're building in Web3, at least in Solana. Most of the people came in the last year because of meme coins or because of trading. Especially after FTX, there was a drop, and then a lot of people came in through pump fund and trading. And I think for the large part, everyone's focus is still on making that 100x, making that 200x, and that meant, at least from my perspective, that meant for Chomp to scale, Chomp either have to kind of lean a bit more into that mentality, or we may need to find a different audience set or like a different market. That's where I'm at. I'm curious what your like. What are some of the things that you felt like were meaningful and rewarding, and then what are some of the learnings that you had?
Um, I don't know. I think it's all been pretty rewarding. It's cool when something comes out of your head and gets put into real life, and then people like it. I think that's been just every day waking up and seeing that's been really like really awesome. Um, and it makes me want to keep going and do more. Um, I think like in terms of what we need to do and kind of like what we can do better. Um, I think that it's not so much about like degen or Web3 or Web2 or not degen or any of these things. It's really strictly about um, where can you provide value, um, and there's a lot of value out there that you can provide that does not exist within crypto or in a UX that requires you to use a mobile wallet, for example. And that's something that most people aren't going to do. And so if we have this vision of like, hey, like we want to bridge the gap between perceptions and reality and give people um, a way to connect over that bridge, then like that just doesn't cut it. Like that's not good enough. Um, there's no world in which that's good enough. And so we need to we needed to kind of like go back to the drawing board a little bit and be like, okay, like how do we get there? How do we get to like this vision? It's not just like, hey, like build an app and it's the everything app and it's for every kind of content. I think that we do get there, and I think Trump is that. But I think that also comes probably a lot later. Um, and I think like there are a lot of communities, whether it's crypto, whether it's surfers, whether it's uh, organic food people, I don't know, fashion people, music people. Really, there's I don't know, probably millions, if not billions, of different kinds of communities out there that care about what each other think and can produce and share that value to kind of like the world, right? And so they kind of need maybe their own space to engage with these kinds of things, and then the content that they produce can then later be aggregated into what Chomp currently is, or something like what Chomp currently is, with much higher focus on kind of like content and engagement, conversation, like comments and social things like that. um but I think that we have tried a lot of different kinds of things. And we've seen, I think, a lot of really, really, really awesome feedback from everyone, and worked really hard on kind of like iterating with that feedback towards more of what people wanted to see, what people were enjoying. And I think like that's incredibly valuable, and it's given us a ton of insight and information that we can kind of like move forward with. um, but it's also still kind of like too all over the place, and so like this is I think one of the problems with all of these kinds of applications that are like really the end long run goal is this sort of like social media or media application, content application, whatever you want to call it. um, and they all really start with this really small, dense starting point. So there's this feature of complex systems called starting point sensitivity. And basically what that means is you can have the exact same system, whether it's an economy, a social circle, a biosphere, evolution, like literally any complex system. If you have a point and it starts like right there, it ends up like let's say here, right? But if you move that point like one space to the right, it might end up over here. Like these systems are incredibly sensitive to where they start. And so we need to find as many of the best starting points as possible, and start from as many of them as possible. But b you need to have that focus on those starting points. And it can't just be like everything or general stuff. That everything has a niche, and grows out of that niche, and so it's hard to kind of cover all the niches and provide value to enough people such that that starting point is one of the best starting points. So I think over the next, like 6, 12 months, our mission is basically to find as many of those starting points as possible, and to, build for them. Um, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about because like yesterday I was reading through like this doc that you put together where we will run experiments, right? Can you talk a little bit about this like experiment process and maybe actually for anyone that's watching who like have seen the summer break stuff, it sounds a little bit like this could be more than a summer break, right? This could be like this could potentially take longer. And yeah, how would you respond to that? Maybe yeah, this is two questions. One is like how are we experimenting? And then, is this really a summer break or is it like a longer break?
Yeah. So let's talk about the summer break stuff first, I guess. So I think the summer break is primarily because like we're slowing down like this version of the Chomp app, and I don't think we're totally sure what we want to do with it yet. That doesn't mean that we're not building, we're not doing anything. I think like you know hopefully at the very least by the end of the summer, like by the end of like August, right? We'll have some new like things out that people can interact with. It just probably won't be the exact same thing, or a more scaled up complex version of the current app. It will be kind of these sort of like small iterative experiments, and what I mean by experiments is like, these really simple kind of things that use the same core functionality that Chomp already has, like answering the questions and participating in the markets, but is trying to ascertain whether or not like this is a good starting point. So one example that we've talked a little bit about, mm, is like um, and so like crypto Twitter like cares a lot about prices, as you mentioned. And so like, people care about whether or not in general people think the market's going to go up or down today. And you can provide value to sort of like this community that exists on the internet by getting them this information that they're trying to seek through that community. That is what a lot of people are doing on crypto Twitter, is like trying to ascertain whether or not people smarter than them or people they respect or whatever, are bullish or bearish, for example. And so you can just kind of like make a very simple version of Chomp that just basically asks one question a day. And it's a really bare bones kind of like UX, and put it out there and let it run for, I don't know, a few weeks, a month, and then be like, okay, like, did people use it? Did enough people use it? Did people care? How fast did it grow? Right. And if you can kind of find with these like really bare bones things, really quick growth rates, and also optimize the UX for these things, like so that these kind of experiments have this organic growth kind of built in, like invite your friend and get a free bet tomorrow or like whatever. Um, or a better version of that. That's a pretty shitty version, frankly. But um, yeah, so these kinds of like small experiments really help us like figure out whether or not it's a good starting point. And then you can go to, all of these other digital communities and think about them and be like, okay, like how can we provide value? What are you seeking? So like I mentioned the surfers thing like earlier, like that's a really um really vibrant community, especially, here in Hawaii, but also, a bunch of other places around the world, LA, Sydney, Fuji, Thailand. Um, these places are full of surfers and people who spend a lot of time looking at sort of so there's like websites basically that you can look at that tell you like the swell, which is like how big the
Yeah.
waves are, and kind of like on average like how many people have been around like these areas for the past like few days. And so like they're actively like seeking out this information, and maybe you can help them get a different or better version of that information. Um, and so then you can go and build like a simple, or a super simple kind of like front end, for those people. And then you can do that, you know, 10, 20, 50, 100 times. And maybe you get like five things that work, hopefully. Maybe you get one thing that works or two things, right? But with that, you also get, all of these different sorts of pieces of information, from different verticals and different contents and different communities that can then be aggregated into what Chomp currently is, and shown through what Chomp currently is, or a new version of what Chomp currently is. And so Chomp itself really becomes sort of the aggregator of these experiments, and the experiments themselves, if they're successful and people like them and they provide value and they grow, then will eventually kind of become maybe their own apps or apps within, or like small apps within Chomp maybe at some point in the longer future. um but yeah.
I can see how each of these experiments would take not just a day, right? Because, like, for example, if it's like the server community, you need to understand this demographic, you need to understand what is currently existing right now, and like what they care about, how to express those in a language that they understand and care about, and then try to like build a quick front end and be able to reach at least one concentrated like pocket of that community to see if people actually respond to it. So it's a very it's not something that can be done like overnight.
No.
Um, but then my question there would be, when do we know when we found the right next point?
Well, we're looking for a lot of them, not just an individual point, but um, I think it's really a growth rate, is how I'm currently thinking about it, at least, right? So like, if you run all the experiments for a month, um, and let's say you get really lucky and you get 10,000 users to start on one of them, and you get two users to start on another one. Um, the 10,000 users one, at the end of the month, you have 20,000 users. But the two users one, you get up to 1,000 users. And you put the same amount of kind of like effort into each one. The one that started with two users is actually a better starting point. And the reason for that is because it grows faster. And that growth indicates like people bringing other people in. So like these things probably aren't going to be like marketed all that much, if at all. And so we're really, really looking for like this organic growth of people using it and other people bringing in, like coming in because of their usage, and trying to build those loops into all of these things. Um, but that growth rate is super indicative of, hey, I'm getting other people in my community to come do this thing. And maybe that community is not like huge. And so like maybe it's not the best thing, right? And so like secondarily, yes, the size certainly matters. Because like you don't want to really focus on a starting point that can't get, to some threshold of, call it like 20,000 people or whatever, right? If there's not like that many people, then it may not be worth the time in the immediate sense for us to focus on. Um, and so secondarily, yeah, like the number of users matters, but it's really like that growth rate that is the most important thing, because that's what indicates like, hey, like I'm gonna go get my friend to use this, and that's what brings mass scale.
So thinking out loud, it seems like in order for us to compare these experiments side by side, there are a few components that ideally are the same. So for example, they all have a shareability, right? So it's not like one experiment can share, one experiment can't share, so you can't really tell. And like the referral and sharing function really, to be honest, we didn't do it very well, right? With the current
Not
version
definitely
of
not.
like, yeah. And like a part of the reason why is because like we saw this with the Ultimate Chomper campaign. We put a UTM tag on the Ultimate Chomper like link and saw how many people click through. I think we had like 700 clicks, but then only like 100 of them actually landed because you just can't click through and immediately connect a wallet. Right. So anyone that like saw it on their phone and clicked onto it, they get taken to a Chrome or like whatever browser, and unless that browser has an embedded wallet, which at Brave does, but a lot of the others don't, then they actually can't log in and can't participate on Chomp. And the only people that were able to like successfully click through were the ones that were on their laptops, and then they can like click
Yeah.
onto it and be able to like connect with their browser extension. And yeah, like one way we could solve that would be not having the wallet connect and just do embedded wallet. But then the problem there is we do require Sol and we do require Bonk as interaction. So if you only have embedded wallet and you don't have anything in that wallet, you still can't like continue this user journey. Which are some of the reasons why like for everyone that's watching, like we are trying to minimize or abstract away some of the crypto elements because it's quite hard to see if people dropped off because of those things or because they're not interested in like certain parts of the user journey.
Yeah, I have a ton of thoughts here. Okay. So first referrals and sharing, and then actually, let's do the UX thing first. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So making people sign in with a wallet is just simply the worst fucking UX there is. Like, it's terrible.
yeah,
And like, it's also not safe. Like, you should not connect your wallet to something when you don't know what it is. You don't know what it does. Like, it could be a drainer. Like, if you are, I've been in crypto for like fucking almost 10 years. Actually, 10 years at this point. Jesus. So like, these are things that I learned very early on that I think a lot of like new people don't necessarily like think of or know or haven't really interacted with a ton of OPSEC stuff. But like, yeah, don't connect your wallet to random apps, or at least not your main wallet. Use burner wallets. These kinds of things are actually pretty important. Um, if you like use crypto a lot, um, so that's a really bad UX, and we don't want people to do that. And then on a lot of the kind of like soul and the bonk stuff actually. So I sent you this morning something about TEs. And you don't so like TEs are basically a section of a processor or a chip that you can use in isolation that's not touched by anything else. And you can prove data and computation from a TE, and then you can post that root of the proof to like Ethereum or Solana or any other blockchain ever. And because all this runs in a TEE, you don't actually need wallets. What you need is to deposit money somehow. You can do that from a wallet and like send money in, or you can onboard with Apple Pay, or a bank account or like anything else. Um, because all of the units are just within the TE, and you can prove all the computations that happen on them. You can prove all of the data, and so because of that, it allows us to like abstract a lot of these like UX elements of crypto like away, and make people not have to sign transactions. Make people not have to connect a wallet to be able to do stuff or even really have a wallet. Um, and so I think that's something that I personally am pretty excited about, or at least thinking through right now. And then the last thing, on referrals and sharing, yeah, no, we didn't do a very good job of this, like really at all. Um, and I go back to Facebook a lot here, or like for examples and things, but like I think Facebook is the easiest example to use here. It's just like so simple. Um, hey, I want you to be my friend. Here's a link to become my friend, right? It's not like a referral. There's no incentive. It's not like it
yeah,
is a share, but it's not really like, hey, I'm sharing this thing. It's like, hey, become my friend, right? It was like this nice kind of like thing that's like a good vibe and like makes people feel good. And people
yeah,
did it. It's like, oh, I'll be your friend, sure. And it's like kind of funny or it's a little fun, you know? And that just worked like so incredibly well. And so it's not like, hey, like I get an incentive or I get this thing and that's why I'm doing this. It's hey, like I want to be your friend and that's why I'm doing this. And like people respond really well to that. And so on these like referrals and shares or like whatever, um, you need to provide sort of like this intangible um intrinsic value that's just in that experience for like
yeah,
both of the people there. And it's not like hey, like you get an incentive or hey, you get a discount or hey, whatever. It's like this emotional experience that you're optimizing for.
yeah.
um yeah.
So in the context of like serving, it could be something like come surf with me here together. Or like I want to check how the waves are doing, I want to go together to this place and then we can like link and see like the place right together or like share where we want to go together. And in the case of like the emotional thing that I was talking about earlier, it could be like, I want to check in on how you're feeling. Or like how are we feeling today? Maybe that's the question, right? And then there's a link, and then we just share how we're feeling today.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually think that's a great one. Like, hey, like I
yeah.
want to know how you're feeling. Like you know the
I
meme.
want like I literally want to know how you're feeling, right? Like I'm not like giving an example. Like I
I'm
want to
pretty good.
know.
I'm pretty good,
Okay,
thanks.
good. Okay, now like click on a button on the front
Yeah,
end
no, but
and tell me.
I actually think that that's like a really good one. Like, like I think that there's the meme, right? Everyone says, everyone asks like, how the thing is, but not how I am or whatever. I forget. I'm forgetting, totally blanking on the actual meme. Um, Hang on, I'm gonna Google it.
Okay.
Um,
While you Google that, I'm gonna share like something else that's like kind of related. So like a lot of the questions that so like as you guys are listening, you might think, oh, this is like not related to the current chomp at all, which is like untrue actually, because a lot of our insights came from like running chomp and like talking to you guys and putting out different content. Okay, you go before you forget.
okay, so it's a picture of sad Waldo, like Waldo crying, from Where's Waldo,
You
and
can just
everyone
like
asks,
send me a link and then I can share the screen.
okay, let me send you. Um, And there's like different versions. There's a ton of versions of this meme. I've seen them everywhere. But no one ever asks how you are really. And like we also give bullshit answers to this fucking question all the time. And if someone sent you this thing and was like, hey, like I want to know how you are, like you might actually answer it like well, and like truthfully. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's true. It's true. I want to know how people are doing, and like usually when like the standard when I was little learning English, the first question is, "How are you?" Right? And there's like a preset answer. I'm fine, thank you. And you? And then the other person has to say, "I'm fine too, thanks." That's like the typical like English
right.
and British
Yeah.
English.
And
You have to say that, but that's not how they all feel.
no, I mean I have a friend who responds to that question with fuck, what did he say? It's really it's really fucking funny. Um, it's like fantastic each and every day. So it rhymes. There's like a whole thing to it. It's great.
The dev.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
Dev.
because I saw him and I was like, "How are you doing?" He's like, "Fantastic," blah blah blah,
Yeah,
and I was like,
it's like one of my favorite things. Every single time you
"Yeah,
ask him, he's like, doing fantastic. I'm like, dude, that's just awesome. Like you make me feel better when and make me happy when you do that. And like I really appreciate that. Like I think that's a great vibe.
yeah." Croner said, "Everyone asks how to chomp, but no one asks how is chomp." Well, we're telling you how Chomp is because like him and I are Chomp, and then we're telling you where Chomp is going, where Chomp is going. So yeah, you guys are asking, so I'm glad. Um, so like one thing I was saying before was a lot of this is actually rooted in the learnings that we got from like kind of putting out different content and seeing how you respond. So one of the things that I wanted to share before the Waldo thing that Isaac found was this message in the chomp in the general chomper community. I don't know if you saw this, Isaac. It was like
I actually
this.
did not see this.
Okay, it was this random chomper, and like he had never spoken in our community before, and then he wrote this message, and he's like, "This deck really got to me. I don't know who suggested it. It reminded me to care for the loved ones that that are around me and people who pass away." And I was like so touched, and I DM him, and I think he's from the US or the UK, I can't remember. But the fact that like and this was one of the decks that I think we Mohit put together. And yeah, the fact that this is resonating with people was like such a moving experience. It was such a moving thing for me to see because I was just like scrolling. And we had a lot of content like this, right? We had people who like wanted to ask questions about drugs or like Grim asking about conspiracy theory or like whatever it is. What at least for me, what I realized is we want to know if others are feeling the same way. Like we feel something, we think something. We want to know if there are others like us, if there are others that are experiencing the same thing or maybe differently, but at least now I know, right? Um, and a lot of these questions are like really, really irrelevant to crypto. They're mostly related to like the shared human experience, your loved ones, your conversation with your friends, the things that your worldview, the things you love and hate, the food you love and hate, right? These are not things that are isolated to one, you know, like Web3. But because we're building in Web3, we have this powerful content and it only touches a small set of like a small subset of the community that this can potentially resonate with.
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to like ideally and the reason that you know you see us on Chomp like rotating through all these content, you know, sometimes it's about like cactus or like sometimes it's about like love and death and sometimes it's about all these things is because we're trying out what resonates with just like humans in general. But it's also because in this really small community already, we can't really afford to niche down on one type of content because if we niche down, we're going to lose certain users, unless it's about what's the next meme coin that's going to 100x. Yeah, so wanted to take a step back. That's the main reason of why we're doing this pause and experiment with different kind of environments and experiment with what will resonate the most in a set environment and come back, hopefully deliver um, a product or a set of products that live up to the picture in our heads, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess not immediately. Like it's gonna take forever.
It's,
For
it's
the
I mean, nothing great gets built immediately. That's ridiculous.
yeah, we don't know. Like we are like currently, as we know now, this current product, we still have actually 1,000 questions that are asked by the community. That we haven't gone through yet, we haven't filtered yet, that we can put out as content, standalone content. We also have many of you guys that have, you know, credits in your wallets. So we have we have this product, but we're also going to try all these experiments that Isaac had mentioned. Maybe in like a monthly basis, we'll put out something, but it is quite possible that the new things that we put out periodically may not be directly related to your personal experience. So, for example, if we put out something about servers and you don't serve, you're going to be like, what the fuck is this? This is irrelevant to me. But that is to be expected because we are trying out all these different categories and niches right now. But wanted to give you guys all a heads up, so you know what's coming. Um, okay, I'm gonna go through a few other questions. And then while I do that, any of you who we have like 150 people who are online right now, feel free to ask any questions that I may not cover in the next 10 minutes, and then we can go from there. So here are some more like immediate questions because like, you know, people who are online, they have come to use and love this one product that we've built, right? So can I still chomp?
Yeah, for at the very least for now.
Yeah. What happens to my points and my credits?
They will stay. So, you know, whenever we bring, if we let's say for example, like we entirely sunset Chomp and you can't use it anymore for the time being, those will, you know, come back when um you know, we get back to like aggregating all of the experiments and putting that into, you know, this new version of Chomp. um and so that whenever we, you know, have the new version like of the full scale, you know, kind of like content based application that's not, you know, very nichely targeted, those will be there. And ideally we can find a way for you guys to bring those things into each of the experiments if you like, um so that, you know, you can use your credits on surfing or, you know, anything, um and, you know, earn points for those things as well. That's like the ideal situation for us, and you guys, but yeah, they're definitely not going anywhere, and we are definitely, you know, making sure that is there for you guys. Yeah.
Will I still be able to earn rewards on Chomp?
uh we're not doing that many like credit questions, I don't think, over kind of like the next like month at least. And so like at the very least, Chomp will be live for the next month. Um, and we kind of have to figure out beyond that, but um, you can still earn points by doing the free stuff. And yeah, and you can just get value out of knowing what other people think, so you can earn that.
We're aiming for like one validate deck a day. So you can still like gradually spend your credits if you have it, and then like that will come back as bonk. And then we do still have the kind of one-time withdrawal form that's live in the Telegram.
Yeah.
It's also live in one of the tweets. So like if you feel like what you hear isn't you don't like what you hear, or you feel like you want to withdraw the credits and use your soul to buy an NFT or whatever, you have the ability to do that withdrawal still until June 12th, end of day, June 12th, UTC. But yeah, until then, yeah, you can still spend, you can still earn. Chomp as it is will remain as it is, just with like a scale back volume of decks, at least for the next month, if not longer. Okay, the next question is
Yes, Grip.
uh
They
oh,
they will still exist.
I didn't see. Hold on, I'm gonna put this question up so everyone can see it. Will streaks and leaderboard roll over? So the question is whether they roll over.
So like so when I say yes, I mean to like the next full scale version of Chomp. They probably wouldn't roll over to any of the individual experiments. So you'd have to get, on the streak or the leaderboard if we have those things. And like, we may not have those things for these experiments, because these experiments are really about, do people want to do the thing, right? Do they care about like doing this action, like getting this information, creating this information? Um, and points and leaderboards are awesome, and they're fun, and they add a lot of value. But what the information that we are trying to get at is like, how valuable is this action for this community? And so like maybe we don't even have those in these like super super simple UXs of these experiments. But yes, they will definitely exist in the next full scale version of John.
well, we
And your
do
points and
record. Yeah.
your
Well,
points
we
and
do.
streaks will roll over.
Yeah, so we do record in our system the highest amount of streaks that you've hit. So like the longest streak you've hit. We also record the total amount of bonk, just like in your mini dash, the total amount of bonk you've earned and the total number of points that you've earned. So they may not exist in the same form because we don't know how the future version will look like, but they will be retained. And then maybe final question, is the token still on the roadmap?
Yeah, it is.
So, okay, that's where we're stopping. Are we gonna say more or no?
No, we're not saying
Okay,
more.
okay. So there you have it. Um, do you have, if there's any more questions, we'll remain open for the next few minutes, and then we're happy to answer a few more questions because we're almost at the hour mark. Um, but yeah, so how do you feel about kind of the next 6 months?
I'm really excited. I think it'll be really fun. I think that we will learn a fuckload, which I'm personally excited about. I think that it's also going to be just really, really valuable. Like, yeah, because we're going to learn a lot, because we're going to, like, we're not just going to learn about a lot about like, hey, what should we be doing? What should Chomp, in the future look like? What communities care? What actions do they care about? What kind of information do they care about? We're also going to learn a lot about, what UI UX do people, want to engage with? Like, what are the patterns that work really well? We're going to learn a little bit how to present information to people, in different places for different things. We're going to learn a lot about kind of the 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 value that people get out of the different versions of the information, I guess is the right way to say that. Like what they're taking away from it, not in terms of like monetary value or anything, but in terms of like, hey, this is, impacting my life or my thoughts or whatever. Um, how to get them to kind of like connect with each other over that. And yeah, no, I'm very excited about the next 6 months. And I think it'll be very productive, and I think it will be, and I think we'll in 6 months we'll be a lot closer just because of how much we learn, to fulfilling our vision and bridging that gap between perceptions and reality, and letting people connect over that bridge. And like at the end of the day, like that's really all I care about. That's what I want to see in the world. That's what we're doing. And anything that brings that reality closer to my perception is is awesome. So I'm excited.
How do I feel?
How do you feel?
Oh, okay, I will answer. I feel I feel anxious, but like for those of you who don't know me, anxiety is kind of my natural state. I'm like always anxious. Um, I
What's the
feel
thing I always say?
you should tell people what's the thing you always say.
Uh, so anxiety is so like my background's originally in neuroscience, but anxiety is the same emotion. It's the same chemical as excitement. It's just how you interpret it. And so you can choose to interpret it negatively or positively. And if you interpret it negatively, it's anxiety. And if you interpret it positively, it's excitement. Um, so I take that to mean you're excited.
Yeah, so I think I'm anxious all the time. Isaac just thinks I'm excited all the time. That's that's what you're getting out of this. Um, I I mean I like the similarity is they both keep me up at night. They both make me work a lot, like so yeah, there are similarities for sure. And I think I think to have the time and the resources to think and to explore, it is a huge luxury. And it's a luxury that our community and our investors, in a way, have afforded us. Um, we have learned a lot, and now we are making this. I think for some people, maybe hard to understand decision to take a step back from a product that, for all intents and purposes, has mind share in this ecosystem. We are generating a small amount of revenue, and we have actually more users than most products that are building on Solana today. But we are pausing because we want to build bigger. And I think some people may not understand that. But yeah, I think it's a luxury that we're able to do this. And I'm really thankful to anyone that's watching today that contributed to us making that decision and have supported us so far.
Yeah,
Um,
really, really grateful for everything. Like I don't I don't really have the words to be able to express that properly. I'm sure you don't really either. Um, yeah, I don't know a better way to say it than like I think this kind of thing is like what I was born to do. And the fact that I kind of get to live out like my what I think is like my purpose in life is something that I will be, um just forever indebted to. Um yeah.
yeah, I forgot for a moment that we're live streaming, so now I'm like tearing up on live stream. I'm sorry, guys. Um, I do this to Isaac in private all the time, so like he's not reacting because this is just like me on a given Tuesday. But yeah, yeah, we're taking this break. We are hopefully trying to find the thing that makes it. Uh, we want to build a product that makes it worthwhile for your support. Um, and yeah, now I don't know how to end it. I had like a much better ending in mind.
I know how to
Um,
end it.
okay, you go.
We fucking love you guys.
Yeah, I don't know who's watching. This is anonymous, just like Chomp. Don't know who you are, but thank you for your support. And we'll keep talking in the community. We'll keep talking on Twitter. And at least one thing I can promise on my side is I'm planning to write more on my Twitter and share more personal stuff. I've not been very good at sharing kind of my own journey, and like when I'm like building, I kind of forget to tweet. But it's either in the form of like long forms or threads, or maybe like in this format and live streams. I want to be able to show you kind of what is going on in our minds and at work and what we're learning about, what we're excited about. Yeah.
Love you guys. Thanks
Thank
for coming.
you. This is when we're gonna wrap up. I'm going to play us out again. This is Monster Chomp, which is a song that was lovingly made by Crypto Kelly. And
No,
make songs for us and make like random, graphics of Chompy for us, and not just for us, also for you guys, for your own enjoyment, and that's awesome to see. And yeah, we'll still be around, and hopefully this was good for answering your questions. And yeah, keep telling us what you want to know, and we'll maybe do one of these again or some other format. Yeah.
yeah. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank
All right.
you. Gonna end stream.